This conference will now be recorded.
So good morning everyone. I think I am audible to all of you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, right. Today's topic will be on principles of primary healthcare. So what are the principles of primary healthcare and what are the advantages of it and how the primary care healthcare has been established in India. So all those things we are going to discuss in this topic. So these are the contents. You can see the introduction to healthcare, evolution of primary healthcare. This has already been discussed about the Alberta Declaration, attributes of primary healthcare, components of primary healthcare, and then principles of primary healthcare, evolution of primary healthcare in India, primary healthcare scenario in India, 30 years of after Alberta conclusion and references. So in this order, the contents will be there. If you look at the health, it is the fundamental human right. So it is the human right. So people, the government of India or the government of particular state, so they have to provide healthcare services and they have to look after the health of the people in which state or in country they are living. So that's why what is happening is they are providing all the free healthcare services, maybe from primary healthcare, secondary and tertiary healthcare, whatever healthcare it may be. So it is the fundamental duty of the government to provide healthcare services to all the people and look after the health of the people. So here what they are doing, it is an integrated care comprising preventive, promotive, curative and rehabilitative services. So they are providing 4 types of services, that is preventive services, promotive services, prevention and promotion through primary healthcare services, that is primary health centers and sub centers, whereas curative and rehabilitative services, that is through the secondary level services, that is through community health centers, district hospitals, area hospitals, teaching hospitals and then super specialty hospitals. Through them they are providing the curative as well as rehabilitative services. So the services must start from womb to tomb. So from the womb to tomb, all the different type of services will be provided from womb to tomb. So it is a key to socio-economic development and progress of the country. So if you provide good health, good healthcare facilities, and if you promote the health of the people, definitely it is a key to the socio-economic development of any country. So organized in 3 levels, you can see this is the most common healthcare pyramid. You can see primary level, which includes sub centers and primary health centers. Secondary level, so here only preventive and promotive services will be given in the primary level, that is at the sub center. Primary level, that is at the sub center, as well as at the primary healthcare centers, where they are going to give preventive and promotive services and a little bit of curative services. Whereas if you take at the secondary level, so the secondary level includes the community health centers, district hospitals, area hospitals, and then the teaching hospitals. So many things will come at the secondary level. So all the health secondary level curative services will be provided. At the tertiary level, you can see all the super specialty and teaching hospitals will come, so which will provide curative services as well as the rehabilitative services. So this is the pyramid, healthcare pyramid. So primary, secondary and tertiary levels. And you can see the evolution of primary healthcare. So Alberta conference that held in 1978, 6 to 12 September. It is a milestone in the history of public health. So in this conference only, they came to a conclusion that we have to provide primary healthcare services to all the people in the entire world. So key to the attainment of goal of health for all. So what are the main objectives of this Alberta? So in the conference, what are the objectives? So if you see at the objectives of the conference, that is to promote the concept of primary health. So they want to provide primary health to all the people who are living in the entire world, to evaluate the present health care situation. So they want to reveal what is happening right now, what are the services we are providing right now, what are the lackness, what are the deficiencies, what are the constraints, how to overcome them. So all these points were discussed in this conference to define the principles of primary healthcare. So what should be the principles of primary healthcare, with what principles this primary healthcare system must work in the country. So all these things they have planned to define the roles of government, national and international organizations. So what the state government has to do perform, and then what are the duties of the central government and what are the duties of the international organization. So they have framed the roles and responsibilities of each and every government, that is national level, that is state level, national level, and then at the international level, how to act to formulate recommendations for the development. So for the development of health and development of this infrastructure for the primary health care, so they have given the recommendations in this Almata Declaration. So what does Declaration of Almata says? So what they have observed is existing gross inequality in the health status of the people is unacceptable. So there is a gross inequality between the you can see tribal, rural, and then urban areas. So health status, if you see at the tribal as well as the rural areas, the healthcare indicators are very poor when compared to the urban areas, because you can see the healthcare services are more, our healthcare centers, our healthcare services are more in the urban areas when compared to the rural and tribal areas. At this point, I already discussed. Majority of the population in India, they will depend on agriculture for their livelihood, and most of the population live in rural areas. In India, majority of the population lives in rural areas, rural and tribal areas, where they are having very less healthcare facilities. Whereas only few percentage of the population live in urban areas, they are having very good healthcare facilities. So that is the inequality in distributing the healthcare services to different areas. So this inequality you have to overcome. So existing gross inequality in the health status of the people is unacceptable. That's what I am saying, because the healthcare services at the rural and tribal areas are very poor. That's why their indicators, whatever indicator you take, under 5 mortality or immunization status or malnutrition, it is very high. All are very high when compared to the urban areas. That's why the existing health status between the urban, rural as well as the tribal is very the difference is very high. That's why we have to bring that inequality to a normal level. People have a right and duty in participating individually and collectively. So people have the it is a right of the people to participate in the programs, to participate in the decision making, and to participate in the programs. They have the right. So they can participate in the programs, they can participate in any of the health care service in whatever way they want. So primary health care is essential health care, an acceptable level of health for all the people by 2080. So their main aim of this Almata Declaration is, so they want to bring a level of health for all the people by year 2080. So primary health care, if you look at the definition of primary health care, is an essential health care made universally accessible to individuals and acceptable to them. So their main aim is the health services must be universally acceptable. That means everybody can go to the primary health center or to the sub center and they can get whatever the health services they want. So that is, accessibility is most important. It is not that see, if you look at this Eluru town. So suppose Buttayagudem people, if you establish a hospital in Eluru and you say that it is accessible, it is wrong. People cannot come for every time. They cannot come to the Eluru town and get the healthcare services for them. So health centers must be established in their own. So Buttayagudem also you have to provide one primary health center, sub centers, and then followed by community health centers. So everything you have to provide in that area so that people can go to the health services very easily and get whatever the services they want. That is accessibility to individuals and acceptable. Not that the services must be acceptable. Suppose if you keep very high rates. If you keep very high rural areas, people cannot afford high rates, so they don't go to the healthcare system, and your services will become failure. That's why you have to keep the services which are acceptable to them. That means if you construct a super specialty hospital there, very few people will get heart attacks or some of the chronic diseases, and they will go to that hospital, they will utilize the super specialty services. So acceptable means they need preventive and promotive services. At the rural areas and tribal areas, people need preventive and promotive services. So if you provide the preventive and promotive services at the rural and tribal areas, people will 100% come to your healthcare center, and they will utilize all the services. Then it becomes acceptable to the society, acceptable to the people, right? So whatever is acceptable to them, you have to provide through their full participation. So I told you several times, if any program you want to make successful, you need to get help from the society. People has to come forward, they have to participate in the program, then only your program will become successful through their full participation. And at the cost the community and country can offer to maintain at every stage of their development in the spirit of self-reliance and self-determination. That's what I am saying. Cost must be very less and effective, so that every individual can afford. Even the country has to afford it. Even the country has to spare the amount, so that they can maintain it throughout the year, or throughout they have to maintain. So that's why the cost should be effective, so that the individual can be in an affordable position, and the country must be in a position to maintain the services to the people. So that's why this is the definition of primary healthcare. It is an essential healthcare made universally accessible and acceptable to them through their full participation, and at the cost the community and the country can afford to maintain at every stage of their development in the spirit of self-reliance and self-determination. We can look at the attributes of primary healthcare. That is essential healthcare, universally accessible. It must be acceptable to all the people in the society. It should be community based, right? First point of contact. So whenever they get any doubt, or whenever they get any minimum signs and symptoms, they must be in a position to approach the hospital, and it is the first point of contact. And it is affordability. So patients must have the affordability, so that they can go to the hospital, get the services whatever they want. Adaptability, appropriateness, community participation, continuity, comprehensiveness, coordination. So these are all the attributes of primary healthcare. You can see accessibility, affordability, acceptability, appropriateness, and then adaptability. If you look at the components of primary healthcare, education concerning the prevailing health problems and the methods of preventing and controlling them. So first, what the primary health care must do is they have to educate the people about the locally endemic diseases. What are the most common epidemics and endemics are there in that particular area? How to overcome them, and what are the preventive measures they have to follow, and then about the nutrition, maternal and child health, and then water purification, everything. So what are the preventive and promotive services they have to provide, and then promotion of food supply and proper nutrition. So about the people must be informed about the food supply, what are the different foods which are available in that locality, and what about the nutrition of that particular food, and then what about balanced diet. All these things they have to educate the society. And adequate supply of safe water and basic sanitation. So need for basic safe water and basic sanitation also they have to educate the society. Maternal and child health care, including family planning. So maternal care, so antenatal and postnatal care must be given, and immunizations and child health. So for the children, so they have to look for the child growth monitoring, immunization services, breastfeeding practices, and everything they have to observe, and they have to explain to the society, including family planning services. So whatever possible family planning services are there at the primary health center level, so those services must be provided to the society. So immunization against major infectious diseases. So immunization activity is also a preventive activity that has to go on. Prevention and control of locally endemic diseases. So first of all, they must know what are the local endemic diseases which are prevailing in that particular area, and they have to explain the preventive measures, and they have to explain when to approach the healthcare facility, and what are the services available, and when to go for higher referral. All those things they must be educated. The society must be educated. Appropriate treatment of common diseases and injuries. So minimum treatment must be provided to the common diseases and injuries. Provision of essential drugs. So minimum drugs must be there in the primary health center. So the society, they have to get the whatever essential drugs, maybe minimum basic for like hypertension, diabetes, fever, common cold, so pains, and then for conducting normal delivery. So minimum essential drugs, whatever is necessary, that must be there. So the main topic is principles of primary healthcare. So what are the main principles? So this is a very good, you will get in your examination definitely, are the in orals majority 90% of the times you will be asked what are the principles of primary healthcare. So number one is equitable distribution of healthcare services, community participation. So community has to participate in all the programs, healthcare programs. Intersectoral coordination, that means you have to get the coordination from all the departments. So health is dependent on all the departments, so you have to get cooperation or coordination from all the departments, and the appropriate technology. So with minimum cost, with sound knowledge, you need to have, you need to develop some technology which is useful for the betterment of the health of the people. So these are the four principles of primary, these are the four pillars of the primary healthcare. That is, number one is equitable distribution, second one is community participation, third one is intersectoral coordination, and fourth one is appropriate technology. So if you look at if you go into the detail of each and every one, so what is this equitable distribution? Inequality in the availability of health services, that is major concern. That means the healthcare services are not equally distributed in the society. If you look at I told you previously that in the majority of the population in India are living in rural and tribal areas, mostly in rural areas, and agriculture is the main factor for them for getting their livelihood. So what is happening is all the healthcare centers are the tertiary, all you take teaching hospitals or the apex centers. They are all situated in the urban center, urban areas, and majority of the urban health centers are available in the urban area. That means very few population is living in urban areas, and they are getting maximum services. From primary level to tertiary level, services are available to the urban area people. At the same time, if you look at the rural areas where majority of the population is living, and their main source of income is agriculture, in those areas we find only primary health centers and then sub centers. There we don't have the community health centers, area hospitals, district hospitals are not there, and tertiary care centers are not there. That means there is inequality in the distribution of healthcare services. So few percentage of population in urban area are present, and they are getting maximum healthcare services. Majority of the population are living in rural areas, and they are getting very less healthcare services. So this inequality, it has to be reduced. It has to be reduced. So that is it has to be reduced, and it must be brought to the equal level. That is called equal distribution of healthcare services, and supply of healthcare resources more towards affluent areas. So if you look at the health care resources, so that is more towards the affluent area. That means the richer population in the urban areas, they are getting very high treatments or very intensified treatments. But the people who are living in the rural, tribal, and semi-urban areas, they are not getting that intensified treatment, or tertiary care they are not getting. So that is also one of the supply of healthcare resources that has been unequally distributed among the areas. Julian Tudor Hutt, so he gave one law that is called as inverse care law. Inverse care law. So Julian Tudor Hutt has given a law that is called as inverse care law. What he has said is availability of good medical care tends to vary inversely with the need for it in the population served. So good services are there for very few population, that is in the urban areas, whereas bad services are very less medical care services are there in the majority of the where the majority of the population is living, that is in the rural areas. So availability of good medical care tends to vary inversely with the need for it in the population served. That is called as inverse care law. First key principle is the primary healthcare ensures that individuals with more compromised health conditions will receive more health services. Commitment to health equity focuses not only on ensuring program inputs but also reducing differences in health outcomes. So access to healthcare, that is, it is horizontal equity and vertical equity. That means horizontal equity means equal access for equal needs. So whatever the needs are there, based on the needs, access must be there. Based on the needs, access must be there. That is equal resources. So everybody must be given equal resources, equal access to healthcare. Every individual must get equal access towards the healthcare. Equal utilization of health services. So the both urban and rural areas or the tribal areas, they must utilize the healthcare services equally, and equal health. So all the indicators of both urban and rural area must come to normal. Then you can say that equal health has been distributed, or equal healthcare services has been distributed equitably. Then vertical equity. What is this vertical equity? So unequal should be treated in proportion of their inequality. Whatever inequality is there, that should be treated. That means you have to reduce that inequality by providing good healthcare services at the rural as well as tribal areas. You can bring down that vertical equity to normal. Individuals with more need should have more treatment wherever the need is there. So what we say is, depending upon the needs of the people, healthcare services must be provided. Depending upon the needs of the people, healthcare services must be provided so that the people will utilize the healthcare services and your program or your health services will become successful. That's not the main thing what we are saying from the beginning. Depending upon the needs of the people, if you provide the needs, whatever needs are there, if you fulfill their needs, definitely they will accept the healthcare services and your health service system will become successful. Your program will become successful. Suppose if you are not fulfilling their needs, they will not come to the hospital, they don't get any healthcare services, and your services will become failure, your programs will become failure. The central theme of need therefore determines equity. So what are the needs of the society? You have to identify the needs of the society. Based on the needs of the society, you have to provide the healthcare services. Then only people will accept your healthcare services and your program will become successful. So aspects of equity in health and healthcare. So there is equity in access to healthcare. That means everybody must have accessibility, maybe tribal, maybe rural, or maybe urban people, or he may be poor or he may be rich. So everybody must have the equal access towards the healthcare. And equity in health, all the indicators must come to normal in both the urban, rural and tribal areas. And effective coverage. Whatever the services you are providing in the urban area, you have to provide the same services to the rural as well as the tribal people. Then it becomes effective coverage. So all the sections of the people, rich, poor, rural, urban, tribal, all the people, if you cover normally, if you cover equally, then it becomes effective coverage. So if I give some examples for equitable distribution in access to healthcare in India, you can see Tripura, what is happening is they don't the tribal area people, they are not having the proper healthcare services. To overcome that, what they have done is helicopter services to reach the remote set of tribal hamlets. So under this equitable distribution, what they have done is the people who are living in the tribal hamlets means those who are far away in the forest areas, those who are in isolated areas where we don't find any healthcare services. For them to provide the effective services, the Tripura government has provided helicopter services. So helicopter will go there, land up, go to the tribal areas and provide the healthcare services whatever is needed by the people. If you look at the Andhra Pradesh, free bus passes to pregnant women for antenatal visits. I told you majority of the healthcare services are in urban area and people has to come from the rural areas for their healthcare services, for utilizing the healthcare services. So the government of Andhra Pradesh, what they have done is at that point of time they have given free bus passes to all the antenatals, so that they can come, they can utilize that pass, they can come to the nearest hospitals and get their antenatal checkups done. And whereas in Assam, you can see Akka ship to provide primary care services in riverine island through boat clinics. So they have established boat clinics. So ships, they have modified it like a hospital, and that ship will go to that particular area, and all the healthcare services will be provided to the people living in that area. And you see in Tamil Nadu, they brought out concept of birth resorts is introduced in remote and hilly areas for institutional deliveries. So this Tamil Nadu, what they have done is they have brought out a birth resort concept where they have constructed the resorts, birth resorts in the nearest tribal and hilly areas. So the people who are pregnant there, they can come and join in the these birth resorts, and they will do the delivery there with all hygienic practices. And after mother and baby is safe, they will discharge them. So this type of concept, different concept for equitable distribution of healthcare services, different state has brought up different types of programs so that the healthcare services must be provided to all the inaccessible or underserved people. So in order to bring equality between the rural, tribal and urban areas, different governments has taken up different types of programs just to bring equitable distribution of healthcare services. So if you look at the socio-economic inequalities are widening than narrowing. So the high society, they are becoming very rich. Day by day, their richness is increasing. Whereas if you look at the poor people, day by day, they are becoming very poor. So the gap is widening. It is not narrowing. It is not that the poor are becoming richer and joining the rich group. So the poor are becoming more poor and rich are becoming more rich. So as a result of there's a widening of the gap is there. It is not narrowing. There's a widening of the gap is there between the rich and poor. So failure of publicly financed healthcare to reach the poor people. So they didn't brought about any financial healthcare systems so that we can narrow that gap. So too little knowledge about the relative importance of inequalities in the determinants of health and healthcare utilization. So people, they don't have the proper knowledge about the utilization or the determinants of health and healthcare services. Too little is known about the impact of programs and policies on health sector inequalities. So whatever the policies and programs right now at that point of time government is providing, so people don't have the knowledge about it. That's why they have not utilized them properly. So to overcome inequality, what they have done is they have adopted Millennium Development Goals by 2000, latest international initiative to attempt at equality, multidisciplinary action involving diverse resources. So different types of resources they are utilizing so that they want to bring the equality among the urban, rural and tribal areas. So they have taken up this MDGs we have already discussed. And second point is community participation. So this is very important. First one is equitable distribution. Second one is community participation. So this community participation, what is this? This is involvement of the individuals, families and communities. So what we are doing is we are asking the families and community to come forward and participate in the healthcare planning, programming, executing, evaluation, and all the other types of services, healthcare services. We are asking the people to come forward to participate in the planning of healthcare, programming, executing, and evaluation. So in all the activities, we are making them to involve, give their opinions, we will take their suggestions and modify the programs according to the needs of the people. So determines both collective needs and priorities. So if you involve the people, we will come to know what are their priorities, what are their needs. Ultimately, whatever healthcare service we will establish or whatever program we will start in that particular community, the people of that particular locality, they have to utilize that service. That is the main motto. So in that scenario, what we do is we ask the people of that particular area to come forward and express their views. What are the problems? What are the health problems they are facing? And what are the healthcare services they are expecting from the government? So if they explain clearly, based on their needs, and we will make the priorities, and based on that we can provide the healthcare services to the society. So that's why we are asking the people to come forward and participate in the health planning, give their suggestions, give their opinions, give their ideas, give their feedback, give their problems, tell their needs. If they tell properly, automatically we can design the program for them and we can deliver the services effectively, and the people will participate and people will accept the services, and the program or the healthcare services will become successful. So important role. So community will be given important role in formulating a health problem, make informed choices, objectives with community priorities. So community comes, explain their problems, explain their needs. Automatically, based on their needs, we can develop the objectives. For that objectives, to achieve that objectives, we'll definitely work for it. Universal coverage cannot be achieved without the involvement of the local community. So if you want to achieve universal health care, the community has to participate. 100% community participation is necessary. Without community participation, you cannot achieve universal coverage. So if you look at the example for community participation, barefoot doctors. So the best example for community participation is the barefoot doctors. In China, lack of availability of rural health services was addressed from 1965 to 80 by development of barefoot doctors. So what is happening is, because of lack of doctors in China, what they have done is they have taken up some of the rural farmers into the health system, and the rural farmers were given basic health training to provide combination of traditional and Western medicine. So all the farmers who are taken up from the community, they were given a skilled training, and it consists of both mixed Western and traditional type of training will be given to all the farmers. And these farmers used to go into the villages and they used to provide the healthcare services to the needy people. This is the best example for community participation, that is in barefoot doctors. So regarded as the model for development of community health workers. So that the barefoot doctors became the model. So from that we have developed so many community health workers. So two types, that is active community participation. It can be two types, that is active and passive. So active means you cooperate and you will act as a resource, or you provide the resources to them. That is the active participation. Whereas passive cooperation only, that means you will cooperate to the programs. That is the passive cooperation. So what are the advantages of community participation? So what are the main advantages of this community participation is that increases program acceptance and leadership, definitely, because people are coming forward explaining their needs, and based on that need you are planning the healthcare services. So definitely program acceptance will increase and the leadership qualities will develop. Ensures that a program meets the local needs. So definitely based on the local needs only we are planning the programs, or we are delivering the healthcare services. Cost of implementing the program may be reduced by using the local sources, because people are involving in the program, they will act as the resource. So automatically the cost of the program will come down. Use local familiar organizations and problem solving is efficient. So whatever the healthcare organizations, private organizations are there in the local area, we are going to get the help from them. We are utilizing their services also. Automatically all the problems will be solved. Commitments to the decision is facilitated. So whatever the commitments are there or whatever the goals are there, definitely we will work to achieve our goals. So there will not be any problem. It is a key to the sustainability. Definitely the program will sustain. Program will become success because the people are coming forward and they are participating in the program. They are participating in the planning. They are participating in the execution, financial help, as well as in the evaluation of the program. Automatically, definitely the program will become successful and it will become sustainable and successful. So you can see what we are doing in the planning steps in community participation. So identification and prioritization of the problem. So community will keep a meeting. We will ask all the community people to participate in that and ask them to explain their problems, their needs, all those things. So based on their problems only, we will plan the program, implement the program by community members, and evaluation by community members. So examples you can say: community participation, village health guides, village health guides. In each village, we are keeping one village health guide. So they are taking up all the healthcare. They are providing healthcare facilities to the people of that particular area. So village health guide is the one most important example of community participation. That is trained guide. For every 1,000 population, we are keeping one trained guide. For every village between 500 to 1,000, we are keeping one trained guide. So she is conducting deliveries in that particular area. If at all any complications are there, she is referring them to the higher centers. Asha worker is also one of the community participant selected by the local community and trained locally. Essential feature of healthcare in India. So these are all the examples of community participation. That is village health guides, Asha worker, trained guides. You can say name of the community based worker, that is village health guide, whole country, health education, MCH and family welfare, first aid. These are the services provided by this village health guide. Mahila Swasthya Sangh, that is whole country, assisting ANM in educating and motivating the community. Community based worker, that is Uttar Pradesh, it is there, assisting ANM, community mobilization for maternal and child health services. That means, so these are the community. Yeah, these are the people who are participating from the community side. So the community participation program. So there are so many things are there. Trained birth attendance, that is 180 districts, conduct safe deliveries, postnatal care also they will give. So these are the different community based workers, and we are having village health and sanitation committees are there. So what they do is they play multiple roles, including IEC activity, information, education and communication, household surveys they will do, preparation of health registers, organization of meetings at the village level, promoting household toilet sanitation programs. So these are the village health and sanitation committees. These are all the people from the society. So you are forming a committee, and the main role of this committee is play multiple roles, including information, education and communication about different types of diseases, maybe communicable or non-communicable diseases, and then household surveys they will do, preparation of health registers, organization of meetings at the village level, promoting household toilet sanitation program, Rogi Kalyana Samitis, that is patient welfare societies. So this committee is also made up of people from the society, and their duty is people welfare society. So they will look after the people. Jan Swasthya Abhiyan Initiative, People Rural Health Watch. This is also one of the committee which will take the rural health. And next one is the intersectoral coordination. Intersectoral, between the sectors, between the two departments, between the two different departments. Intersectoral coordination. Primary care involves, in addition to the health sector, all related sectors and aspects of national and community development. All other sectors, all related sectors, that means health depends on education system, water engineering, then agriculture, then animal husbandry, then police to prevent the accidents and to protect the health of the people. Police services are needed, engineering, water works, agriculture, animal husbandry, and all these are interrelated to the health of the people. That's why all these sectors must come forward and participate in all the activities, give their opinions and suggestions. That is called as intersectoral coordination. Includes sustainable participation that combine interorganizational cooperative working alliances. That means by combination of health plus education plus agriculture plus animal husbandry plus police plus some other organizations which are essential for the improving the health of the people. All the organizations must coordinate hand to hand so that we can protect the health of the people, we can protect and promote the health of the people, possibly but not necessarily in collaboration with the health sector. Prerequisites for intersectoral coordination, that is proper orientation of policies and programs. Suppose if you want to reduce malnutrition, so for malnutrition you need to take the help of the schools. So education system must help us. So that doctors will go to the schools, they will explain about the malnutrition, how to prevent that, what is balanced diet, and how to take the consume the balanced diet. all those things. Also school activities or the education system cooperates with the health system, definitely this malnutrition you can overcome. Or you can take skin infections or vitamin deficiencies or any other diseases or any other diseases in the children. So to prepare a program or a policy on that, so the education system must come forward and provide necessary help to the health organizations. Then definitely we can make the program successful. Formation of joint coordination committee at each level. That means if 2 or 3 departments are involving, so like agriculture, for malnutrition we need to work on the agriculture so that they will provide high nutritious food. They will grow all the high proteins or high nutritious food they can give, plus the education system plus the health system. So they have to have joint coordination committee at each level, and they have to discuss the various factors, and they have to make the policies properly. Defining role and responsibilities of particular participatory agencies. So what education system will do, what agriculture system will do, what health system will do. So for each system, the responsibilities must be framed beforehand, before starting the program. Participatory decision making. So they have to participate if any problems comes, and they have to take the decisions according to that. So intersectoral coordination, developing formal system of interaction, discussion and debate. So everything if you want to formulate any policy or program, so from different sectors you have to get the you have to get the information on that. Debate must go on, interaction, discussion must go on, and finally you have to formulate the policies. Sharing the problems based in implementation. So all the 3 departments must sit and they have to discuss what are the problems they are going to face with this and how to overcome them. They have to discuss with them. Spelling out strategies and procedures, joint evaluation and monitoring. So an outstanding example of the intersectoral coordination at the grassroots level is Anganwadi is a part of ICDS program. Anganwadi is as a part of ICDS program. So this is the good example for intersectoral coordination. If you look at the examples of intersectoral coordination in India, you can see Ayush with Indian system of medicine, convergence with Indian system of medicine, Ayush. That means Ayurvedic, Unani, Siddha and homeopathy are along with allopathy. All these services are provided at one place. That is even in the primary health center we are having Ayurvedic doctors and homeopathy doctors. So if the patient is interested to go to Ayurvedic doctor, he can go to the Ayurvedic and he can get the Ayurvedic treatment. And coordination with rural health participants, coordination with non-governmental and civil organizations, mother NGO scheme, that is MNGO, services NGO. So there are so many things are there. So if you look at the Karnataka, what they have done is Apollo hospitals, Hyderabad Rajiv Gandhi Super Specialty Hospital, Raichur handed to Apollo Hospital under management contract. So 350 bedded hospital, free services to BPL family, that is 40% of the beds for BPL. Government will pay the charges and remaining patients treated under special rates. So this is the government of Karnataka has taken up some intersectoral coordination activity. Then the 4th one is appropriate technology. So what is this appropriate technology? See, this is most important. Technology that is scientifically sound. See, whatever technology you are developing, that should be scientifically sound and it should be adaptable to local needs. So whatever the local area are there, in that area only it must be available to all the people. It should be easily available so that they can adapt the system very easily and acceptable to those who apply it, and those for whom it is used is maintained by the people themselves in keeping with the principle of self-reliance with the resources the country and the community can afford. See, appropriate technology means the technology must be scientifically sound. It should be scientifically sound, scientifically acceptable, scientifically proved, and the people of that locality can adopt it very easily and they can accept it very easily. And for those whom it is used, is maintained by the people, so they can maintain it for the long period of time. It is designed to meet specific needs, health needs of the people, magnitude of the population affected, the degree of morbidity and mortality caused by the health condition. So appropriate technology means it should be scientifically valid, that means scientifically proved, adapted to the local needs. The local needs of the people must be adapted to that, acceptable to the users and recipients. So who are using it, it must be acceptable, and the recipients also, it must be acceptable to them. Maintainable with the local resources. So whatever the local resources are available within that, it has to be maintained. So what are the examples of appropriate technology? You can say use of colored tapes for measuring mid-upper arm circumference. You can see the Shakir's tape. So suppose if you want to do in the tribal area, if you want to see the malnutrition levels, so you need to take the weighing machine, tape. Depending upon the age of the child, you have to use different types of weighing machines, and you have to see the upper mid-arm circumference. So in that scenario, it becomes very difficult for the ANMs or the ASHA workers or the village health workers to carry this equipment to that remote areas, to the tribal areas or to the rural areas along with them. So in those areas, if you use these colored tapes, the technology colored tapes which were designed by Shakir, with that easily you can identify, we can identify the malnutrition levels and you can refer them to the higher centers. So for that scenario, that technology, that is colored tapes technology, is appropriate for that scenario, and it is very cheap and it is acceptable because you are just measuring the upper middle arm of the child, so child can accept it, and it is very easy. So the workers can also accept it, So that's why it is appropriate technology in that scenario. And use of ORS, oral rehydration solution. That means if your child is having diarrhea, so you cannot get ORS packets in the rural and tribal areas. So in that scenario, you just prepare the oral rehydration solution with the help of salt, sugar and water and give it to the child. Automatically child will survive. So in that scenario, that technology, that means salt, sugar and water, is available in all the houses, majority of the houses, even in rural and tribal areas also. So they can make the ORS solution very easily and they can give it to the child. Tender coconut for oral hydration. So coconuts mostly in the rural as well as in the tribal areas are also available. They can give it to the children whenever it is needed. Growth chart maintenance for under 5 children. Growth chart maintenance. So for under 5 children, maintaining the growth chart, identifying whether the child is growing normally or abnormally, then immediately they can refer them to the higher center. ITN, insecticide treated bed nets. ITN means insecticide treated bed nets. So that is also appropriate technology. So there are so many programs are there. You can see Jan Swasthya Sahyog, that is CMC, Vellore and AIMS. They have designed low cost techniques. That is detection of UTI cost less than 2 rupees per test, anemia less than 1 rupee, diabetes and pregnancy at ₹3, low cost mosquito repellents, simple water purification, health management and information system, and telemedicine. So these are the 4 primary principles of primary healthcare, that is equitable distribution, community participation, intersectoral coordination and appropriate technology. Right, with this I am stopping here. So I am thinking that all are present. Thank you.